So, we've got a number 1 deluxe meal. Is there anything else I can get you?
Yeah, I'd also like a good night's sleep. Maybe something like the I didn't struggle all night with my uncomfortable CPAP mask.
Sir, I think what you're looking for is Inspire. It's an implant that works inside your body to treat sleep apnea without a CPAP.
Come on!
He sounds hangry. Inspire, sleep apnea innovation. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you, and review important safety information at inspiresleep.com.
This podcast of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, is sponsored by AAA Heating and Air.
The premier HVAC company in the Midlands is growing. Are you a top HVAC technician?
AAA Heating and Air is looking for dedicated applicants to fill their fast-growing service department with top-notch HVAC technicians.
If you're the best, then they want you. If you're ready to stop working and start a career, you can earn up to $100,000 plus a year at AAA Heating and Air.
Quality candidates will have at least 2 years' experience and a good driving record. Benefits include top industry salaries, commission on service and unit sales, set call limits, company-provided take-home vehicle and gas card, company-provided cell phone and tablet, health, dental, and vision benefits, 401k retirement plan with company match, and scaled PTO based on length of service.
Contact Roy and Dana Finley at 803-677-1500 or check out their job postings on Facebook or ZipRecruiter.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen, with Chris Clark.
The 2007 South Carolina class was, at that time, 6th in the country and 4th in the SEC, which is amazing.
Wes Mitchell.
You know, I think if you're South Carolina, you're aiming to at least be at 50%. Then in theory, you're adding talent, you're getting better, you're putting yourself in a position to compete.
And Tyler Head.
It's been a great week for South Carolina. On the recruiting front, still certainly plenty to talk about.
On the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
And welcome into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs here on 107.5 The Game. Tyler, Wes, and Chris along with you on this Tuesday morning. Thank you once again to Joe Charlton for being today's guest on the Garnet Trust Hour, and I'll have that conversation up for you shortly on the 107.5 The Game podcasting page. Chris, we learned quite a bit about the punting game itself in that last hour.
We knew it would be an interesting conversation with Joe. I almost felt like guilty because I was bringing up like some tough memories at times.
There were some tough years there during his time at Carolina.
Yeah. And how about Tommy Moody calling in? He's telling Wes that Tommy worked in the Shoeless Joe Jackson reference. He was talking though, Wes, about how he knew Reggie Shaw, who was Flores' coach at that time, and he went up. I guess he was at a practice or something. He just heard the ball, and he was like, "Who's that?" And he was like, "That's Joe Charlton." He's like, "Oh my gosh, the ball sounds different when it comes off his foot."
Nobody ever doubted Joe's leg.
Yeah,
I mean, probably one of the strongest legs in South Carolina history, if we're being honest, I think.
Well, you know that he still has the yards per punt average single season record. Even Kai Kroger has not surpassed it. It's the only thing Kai has not done ever.
Do we know how close they are?
No, we'd have to effort that. We'll look it up.
Put you on the spot here.
Yeah. 46.9 versus 48. No, I have no idea.
Yeah. Got to be close, I would think.
Yeah, there's not going to be a huge difference in it.
Yeah. I mean, do we think Kai is definitely second?
He is second.
Yeah.
Last season, he moved himself into second place on yards per punt. And I think he set some other records, but Joe's still number one. So I mean, when you got Kai Kroger, you know that, and if Kai will have a chance to touch it this year, maybe next year he could beat it. But if he doesn't, that one may stand for a while.
Did you bring up that run against A&M?
Tyler played the clip of it.
We certainly did.
We had a full breakdown. We probably spent half a segment on it.
That was like the only thing that went well.
Exactly. He said he had a fond memory of it, but it was still kind of, tough when you think about the rest of the game.
I mean, I think it's kind of one of those things where right after the game, you can't be like, "Hey guys, did you see my first down run?" But when you're telling, your kids or your wife, like maybe 10 years later, you can be like, "Hey, let me show you this clip on YouTube," and it's it's kind of a cool moment once
Yeah.
you get a little bit of time passing.
Like black out the score at the bottom. Like,
Yeah.
don't look at that part of it. I ran for 10 yards.
Well, he might have been
Seen
the
him.
leading rusher in that game.
He
so-
was for a while. He ended up, Rico Dowdle had 12 yards, and Joe had 10 on one run.
So a little bit of an update on the punting average. Charleston's record was 45.5 yards here at Carolina. Kai Kroger's current career average is 44.2.
Okay.
He's got to bump those numbers up just a little bit to surpass him this season.
That might be a tall task, but how many of Kai's punts have been him having to kind of, drop it down in there?
Yeah, well, that's the
Versus-
if you go look back statistically, like half of Kai's punts last season were in the 20-yard line.
Literally half of his punts were in the 20, 37% the year before and 20% the year before that.
Yeah, I would think Kai Kroger's probably going to get even better. So, and Joe Charlton, do you remember the Braden Mann dude from A&M West, their punter?
Yes.
Joe was talking about him. He said that was probably the best guy he's seen.
Not a fan of rugby punters either.
No, not a fan of rugby punters.
Well, I feel like if you're legitimate, like you got a cannon for a leg, you're kind of like, these guys are cheating a little bit.
Yeah, you can't rugby punt.
If you don't have a cannon for a leg, you're like, hey, I make it work with what I have, right? Like you got to be a little bit, more creative. You got to be a little bit more efficient with what you're working with. But for Joe, it's just like, nah, man, I just kick rockets.
I just boot it. So he's good conversation with him though. I think in about 9-10 days, headed back up to Cleveland to go to training camp with those guys again with the Cleveland Browns. And so they have a starting punter. Life as an undrafted specialist, really life as an undrafted anything, it can be day to day, it can be year to year, it can be day to day, season to season. So we'll see how that goes, but definitely best of luck to him as he goes through that.
Yeah, and local guy, obviously not just in that he played for Carolina, but still lives in the area and obviously went to AC Flora. So pretty cool. Chris, are we locked in enough to tell them our guest for later this week? Or
yeah, I think we're locked in. We've actually got, and I've got something I haven't even told either of you about on one of the same days.
Okay.
So
what we got?
Tyler's like, can we please prepare?
I am
for
the
some
producer of this.
Yeah.
I do like to know things ahead of time.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to know ahead of time.
I'm
but
giving
just
you,
everybody else is finding out too.
Giving you about at least 36 hours of notice. But no, we're going to have Josh Simon on Thursday.
Okay.
He'll be on the Garnet Trust Hour, of course, from 10 to 11. And I think we're going to have several segments with Josh, and we are tentatively scheduled. Keyword, tentatively scheduled. We're going to have a quick phone call for a segment with DJ Swearinger,
neat.
former Gamecock. He's going to tell us a few things that he's got going on. So the goal is to talk to Josh and to talk to DJ all on Thursday. So we'll see if we can make that happen.
By the way, I did the math. Kai Kroger is going to have to average about 49 yards per punt if he wants to eclipse Charlton's career average.
Wow. See that? First of all, we're mathing on this show, so that's a step up. And second of all, again, if half your punts are being downed and you're not just kind of punting it as far and as high as you can,
right,
going to severely affect your distance there. So Joe's probably listening, like, dude, I've got the record. Like, why are you?
Sound like you're rooting for somebody else to take it over.
But I think the record, as good as Kai is, I think the record will stand.
I'd say it's pretty safe unless he's just punting every time from the 20-yard line, which we certainly hope's not the case.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That would not be a good...
And you hope he's not punting so many times that he's able to skew to where he punts more this year than ever before and kind of skews it.
So we're hoping he doesn't break the record, essentially.
If you're a Gamecock fan, you're hoping he breaks the record for maybe percentage downed inside the 20, but
or
doesn't
least
touch.
amount of punts needed in an entire season.
Yeah. By the way, did y'all see, and not that we should ever really be using random fans on Twitter for radio content, but I got to bring this up because we're talking about punters for this entire segment. Did y'all see the burn that kind of went a little bit viral of a Gamecock fan to a Tennessee fan on Twitter when South Carolina announced that Kai was going to be one of South Carolina's representatives for SEC Media Day?
I did see this.
So you saw it?
Yes.
I'm trying to pull it up right now so that I do not butcher it. But essentially, Tennessee fan comes on there, responds, and, ha, ha, ha. Of course, only South Carolina would take a punter to SEC Media Day. Random Gamecock fan who I promise if I can find it, I'm going to credit you, man. But he responds and basically says, after last year, that's the only way a Tennessee fan would know South Carolina had a punter.
Whoa, that's a good one.
Not bad.
Roasted.
Not bad at all.
That is pretty good.
And you know what's
Quality
bad
content.
about Vol Twitter is they never accept
All of it.
defeat. Yeah, I mean, all of it. But I imagine that guy probably had some snarky response to that. It's like, dude, take your L and just leave.
That's one of the best parts. And look, I'm sure, Shane Beamer is pretty active on Twitter, on social media. So I am certain he has seen, for some reason, I don't know what it is, but before the game last year, Tennessee is extremely triggered by Shane Beamer. I don't know why. Shane Beamer's first year.
Is that before the game?
Even before last year's game. Extremely triggered by him because, South Carolina lost the game by a lot in year one in Knoxville. So I don't really get what it is. Maybe they're triggered by everybody and everything that's in Tennessee. That's probably the answer.
That's probably the answer there. Yeah.
It's rough.
It's really easy to get under their skin. Say the least.
You don't have to do anything.
I picture this. Here's my one Tyler's a Georgia fan reference of the week.
Okay.
I'm cutting it down to one per week. But
I'll hold you to it.
I picture South Carolina Twitter and the meme where like they're shaking hands and it's South Carolina Twitter people and then Georgia people shaking hands on the Vols Twitter sucks.
I think that's pretty accurate. You can actually probably extend that out to the entire SEC. I think all 13 other fan bases collectively hate Vol Twitter.
So Gunna's Love Hand 1 is the Twitter account that roasted a Tennessee guy.
Okay, so does the Tennessee guy have hashtag VFL in his Twitter bio or like the orange emoji?
Hold on, efforting.
Or GBO.
Or GBO,
Yeah.
that's another one.
He does not.
Ooh.
But he does.
twist.
He does make sure to let everyone know that he is a University of Tennessee grad.
Okay.
In his Twitter bio, and he has Tennessee in his Twitter at as well.
What's his Twitter at?
David Lewis TN.
Oh, man.
That's not as egregious as some of those people.
Sounds like
though.
a senator account on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like a congressman.
Because what's the most famous guy on Vol Twitter? Is it that Andy guy, Vol for Life Andy or something?
I don't know.
no idea.
I probably got him.
Because most of them have like Vol or For Life somewhere in their Twitter name and then like all that crap in their Twitter bio.
They've got some kind of bot operation going on. Speaking of roasted, before we hit the break, guys, checking out the SEC Network up here.
Yes, it's Takeover Day.
It's Takeover Day, and hopefully you're watching. If you're just tuning in, they got the LSU South Carolina game on, and Ethan Petrie just tattooed a ball off of Paul Skeens. Dude, that was impressive.
Feels like it was a long time ago.
It does feel like a long time ago. That was impressive. Skeens went what? Number one.
Yes,
number
He
one.
went number one overall. Ethan Petrie as a freshman.
Not impressed.
He was not impressed by that at all. But yeah, Gamecock takeover going on all day on the SEC Network.
South Carolina Clemson football 9 o'clock.
That is correct.
Is that right?
So after this baseball game, you'll have women's soccer winning last year's SEC tournament at 2. You'll have the football game versus Tennessee at 4. Women's basketball winning the SEC tournament at 7. And then, yes, the Clemson game at 9 o'clock.
Sounds like a pretty good day.
Lock in for a full day. Relive the memories. All right, we'll continue on with the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Talk a little bit of Media Days coming up next as we did find out who the Gamecock representatives would be, as we just mentioned, Kai Kroger being one of them. That's coming up next here on 107.5 The Game.
Takeover Hour, 107.5 The Game.
As always, guys, this show is brought to you by our friends at Firehouse Subs. Chris just walked out of the studio. I think he saw the picture of this pepperoni pizza meatball sub on my screen and just started walking to Firehouse. There is one right nearby us, kind of right across the State House on campus. That's one of the many, many locations of Firehouse Subs here in the Midlands. We're going to have some news soon about the next one that we'll be at live this month, so be on the lookout for that. But as always, you can get your sub of the day. Turkey Bacon Ranch is today for Tuesday. But I'm telling you, this new pepperoni pizza meatball sub is the thing that's going right now. Some garlic butter on the toast that I think kind of puts it over the top. But many great options, regardless of whatever it is you prefer. If you don't like pepperoni, maybe build your own sub. Hit one of Firehouse Subs' hot specialty subs on the Rapid Rescue. That's firehousesubs.com, or get the app. Probably the quickest way to do it. You can save all your favorites on there, save your payment information, click a couple things, and then the order will be waiting on you on the shelf at your closest Firehouse Subs. Again, shout out Larry Chandler, our friend, and shout out Firehouse Subs, presenting sponsor here on Gamecock Central Takeover Hour.
Who's talking at Media Days? We'll discuss that next on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on one.
For a limited time, Sweet Deals is offering qualified listeners the vacation of a lifetime. An all-inclusive 5-day, 4-night stay in a suite for just 2 adults and up to 2 children in Cancun, Mexico for just $299. This opportunity is valued at more than $2,600. That's right, a $2,600 vacation for $299, and it's all-inclusive, meaning all your food and drinks are included. Attendance is required at a presentation for Vacation Club ownership, but who cares? There's no purchase necessary, and you have a 30-day money-back guarantee if you change your mind. Do not miss this exclusive luxury vacation offer from SweetDeals.com. $299 for 4 nights at an all-inclusive resort in beautiful Cancun, Mexico. Go to SweetDeals.com right now and snag this once-in-a-lifetime offer. That's SweetDeals.com.
7-5 The Game.
Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen. With Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head. On your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
And Mitch Jeter, who is 9 of 9 so far, has hit a 53-yarder, a 51-yarder on the season. This is from 47. Snap it back. It's a fake. Cougar's got a man, Tonka Hemingway. He's caught it at the 25, at the 20, 15, down to the 12-yard line.
Got a penalty
There's
down.
a flag on the play back at the line of scrimmage. Hold on. But is there anything Tonka Hemingway cannot do?
It's against Vanderbilt.
That was the call back in the Vanderbilt game last fall. It was Kai Kroger to Tonka Hemingway on that fake. As mentioned, that penalty was on Vanderbilt, so it was a good play. That's perfect highlight because 2 of the 3 representatives for South Carolina at Media Days next week that will be speaking are Kai Kroger and Tonka Hemingway, joining, no surprise, Spencer Rattler.
Good group. I mean, I think there were several options, but I think Rattler was kind of an obvious since he didn't go last year. Trying to even, who all went last year? To carry on, Zach Pickens.
Definitely those 2. God, who was Javon Gwynn?
It was Javon Gwynn.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, I instantly kind of, when I was thinking of who might go, to carry on would have made sense as like an ambassador of this school and program, but he went last year. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of cool. You got the whole offense, defense, and special teams. So all 3, as much as special teams has been featured within this program, the fact that you have representation for all 3 sort of, quote, sides of the ball, I guess, if you want to say it like that, pretty cool. And obviously Rattler kind of being the returning quarterback, that's always kind of almost a given that QB1 will be there. And it could have gone maybe several directions on defense, but I think Tonka, we've seen him like kind of take these steps forward every year he's been at South Carolina. I'll be very curious to see, does he have another gear this year? Is he able to take that next step now that he's going to be asked, to go be essentially one of the veterans of this defensive line?
Is this a hot take? Even last year, Tonka Hemingway was the best D lineman on the team. Hot take or no? So really, you'd be talking about him or Zach Pickens last season. And Pickens is an NFL draft pick, mid-round draft pick. So obviously a really good player, really good pro prospect.
Are you including the edge guys in that too, or are you more going with the, hey, D-line is interior D-line?
Hand in the dirt, guys.
I'm going both. Your best front guy.
Yeah.
I think it was Tonka. And I'm not even looking at the stats. I don't know what his stats were off the top of my head, I'm going to be honest. But I think if you just go back and look at the games, particularly a lot of the big games that South Carolina was able to win, Kentucky, A&M, Clemson, Tennessee, Tonka Hemingway was super disruptive. He's just a really versatile guy, and he took on a lot. They tried to double team him. He split doubles. He was in the backfield a lot last season.
So his final stats last year, 33 total tackles, 19 solo, 14 assists. Did have 4 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, and 1 pass deflection.
Yeah. I mean, statistically, a good year for an interior guy. But I think a lot of what he did doesn't even show up. And so I think he was the most productive guy on the team. And to your point, Wes, I think there probably is another gear this year. What I'm fascinated to see is just how he's utilized. How much does South Carolina play him outside? How much do they play him inside? Because he can do so many different things for you.
Yeah, you're reading my mind, man, because I think maybe the most impressive thing about Tonka last year, other than everything you said, was that he was able to sort of fill those various roles for South Carolina pretty much seamlessly as far as being whatever they needed, whether that was, can you be an inside, kind of super athletic guy, or can you be the outside edge, kind of bigger guy who can, maybe set the edge, maybe fill that role out there. And, we saw them kind of, I don't know if experiment is the word, or if you would say they sort of fully implemented it. But there was a lot more of playing, kind of 3-man fronts in the spring, or even just playing in general bigger edge guys. And at first it was more along the lines of kind of actually looking almost like a 3-3-5 type look. Other times, they were playing their 4-man front, but with one of those bigger guys who we traditionally have seen them play inside, playing outside on, kind of as a defensive end. And so I think for Tonka, the fact he can do either one obviously helps you as coaches trying to get your best 11 on the field. That's what you're always trying to do. But also, I kind of go back and forth on it myself, Chris, as far as what the best thing is for Tonka and this team, because we know the last 2 years they have had some issues consistently stopping the run. So, how much would maybe just going to a bigger guy in one of those defensive end / edge spots, does that potentially help you in the long run? You could always slide Tonka to more of an inside role on pass rush situations. So I think they've got some questions to answer as far as his role goes, but it's kind of in a good way. Not one of those things, a lot of times you talk about questions and you're talking about concerns. I think it's more of a question, what's best for him, what's best for the team, and really, what size is he at this point in his career? Because those guys can kind of maybe drop a little bit of weight. They can swing one way or the other depending on what the staff sees their role as going into a season. Or the staff may be saying, look, man, we need you to do both again.
I remember when Tonka signed with South Carolina, the opinion of the staff, the former coaching staff at that time, the comparison that was given internally was DJ Wanham, who's doing some really good things in the NFL, was a really good player at South Carolina. And that was kind of play style, but also mentality. I mean, Tonka is just, people just rave about him. You don't hear a lot about him, but he's a great kid. He's a super hard worker. He's just one of those guys that you love to have representing your team, which is why he's going to media days. And, he made an early impact, but I think the question was always, is he more of an end or is he more of an inside guy? And the question has been, some of both. I personally love the idea of having him play inside and continuing that, but for some of the edge questions, that you have this season. And so, like you said, you've seen a lot of experimentation with that in the spring. I think we'll see some different things from Clayton White as far as 3, 4, 5-man fronts, different personnel packages. But it's good to know that you have Tonka that can do all those different things for you.
Well, and do you kind of maybe, I don't know, split the difference between a guy like Tonka and Elijah Davis, who also is someone who could play inside or outside? I personally, and I heard a couple little rumblings that kind of back this up, he looked to me, and I've heard Elijah being who I'm talking about here, Elijah Davis just looked a little bit more comfortable maybe playing on the edge as opposed to, kind of being beaten up inside. But long term, I know Beamer, dating all the way back to, I remember when he spoke at halftime of one of the basketball games, I think was when this was, he specifically said, look, long term, we see Tonka and Elijah Davis as being interior players. They wanted to see other guys step up around them and sort of take over those edge spots. So I think there's a lot of different variables at play here that will kind of determine, injuries are going to determine this as the season goes on. Matchups will determine what happens. Lots of different things will be at play, but ultimately, if you're South Carolina, you're happy. Obviously, you got Tonka in a Gamecock uniform. And to add to what Chris says about how well-rounded Tonka Hemingway was in high school and is now, I always thought it was pretty awesome. This guy excelled in high school. Football, basketball, baseball, National Honor Society, National Spanish Honor Society, which I always like to add that one in there as well. So super well-rounded student athlete.
Muy bien.
Play the golf clap for yourself, Tyler.
Hold on. I got to get the thing up.
You don't literally have to play it.
Yeah.
Wes did it.
Thank
there
you.
you go.
Wes did it. But anyway,
let's take a break.
Tonka, Spencer, and Kai will be speaking, as well as Coach Beamer, next Thursday, the final day of media days out in Nashville between Ole Miss and Tennessee, and we'll certainly be excited to hear what they have to say there. Coming up next, though, Phil Steele has released his power rankings for the SEC going into 2023. Where does South Carolina rank? Talk about that next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
One of our great sponsors here on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour is our friends at Integrated Media, Michael, Nathan, and their team. I've trusted them to come into my home before and do some really cool stuff for us. Something they did for me that little off the wall, but super cool. Took all our old video game systems out of the closet, brushed the dust off of them. I'm talking N64, Nintendo, SNES, Genesis, the Wii. They took all of it, they tied it all in, and they put it on a switcher so that you can just go turn your TV on, press the power button, and then it's all hooked up for you so that my family can enjoy it. In the past, if we wanted to play video games, they're like, you know what, I don't feel like taking out all these RCA cables and it's just a big mess. They can do stuff like that for you, completely custom projects. If you've got something that's irritating you in your house, if you've got something that's not done right, if you got cords everywhere, they can help make it pretty for you and make it all work in one integrated system. Now, they do stuff like that, but they also do other things. TV mounting, if you got a man cave idea, if you have an outdoor patio where you need wireless speakers, a great internet signal, a TV mounted, complete smart home solutions, they can do all of those things for you. Go check out their Facebook and their Instagram page. Integrated Media Columbia is how you can find them. Check out some examples of their past work, get some inspiration, and then give them a call, 803-948-8327, or their website is integratedmediainc.com. Home theater, audio, video, TV installation, security, and cameras, and complete smart home systems so you can control your devices with the touch of a button right from your smartphone. That's our friends Michael and Nathan at Integrated Media, integratedmediainc.com, or 803-948-8327.
Phil Steele's rankings for the SEC in the preseason. What do they look like? We'll talk about it next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, 107.5 The Game.
For decades, Rolling Stone has set the bar for entertainment publications. Today, Rolling Stone Music Now takes over in podcast form.
It is incredible. Beyonce is in this place that I think is so enviable. I mean, it's so interesting that she starts with ballads.
Yeah, when I opened the live stream, it's like, what's going on? I thought this was going to be a different tone for the opening of the concert, but it is really cool that she's doing this moment, you know, as intimate as you can get in a Beyonce stadium show.
Rolling Stone Music Now, wherever you listen.
Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen. With Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head. On your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
And welcome back into the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs here on 107.5 The Game. As I mentioned before the break, Phil Steele, who is the guru of college football, I have his enormous magazine sitting just to my left here, released his preseason SEC power rankings recently. No surprise, Georgia and Alabama at the top. Got to go down right to the middle to find South Carolina sitting at number 8, just behind Arkansas at number 7. And in the explanation for putting South Carolina at that spot, Phil Steele said they seemingly have the potential to do something special, but until both schools have multiple signature wins, talking about South Carolina and Arkansas, it's a wait-and-see approach for 2023.
First of all, I'm jealous that you have that Phil Steele mag sitting there.
You haven't found it yet?
I just need to go get it. I mean, it's only on me. Yeah. But second of all, shout out to our buddy Preston Thorne. He's weighing in. Glad Preston still listens since he doesn't actually come hang out with us in the studio anymore. But he was loving Chris's Tonka Hemingway take. He said Tonka's the man. Agree with that. I thought it was interesting getting into the Phil Steele thing. I don't have any problem. I rarely have any problem with any of these lists at this time of year because they're generally just they are what they are. It's the off season, talking season, whatever you want to call it. No real gripes. Although I did think sort of saying, hey, South Carolina needs signature wins was like a weird way to say it.
And I'll correct this. That was actually Nick Costco that had that commentary on it, talking about Phil Steele's rankings. This is for On 3. So Nick Costco had that observation about it.
Yeah, Nick, going to have to call you out, man. That was just a weird way to say it because I thought South Carolina finished the season with a couple. That's really what they had was signature wins. And I think what you're really looking for, if you're a South Carolina fan or if you're outsiders looking in, you're looking for a more consistently high level of play from South Carolina. We have seen actually in both years for South Carolina, kind of the highest of the highs, at least in perspective of where they are as a program. We've seen big wins. We've seen big surprises. So they've had signature wins. The real key, Beamer talked about this after year one, how they, were kind of struggling to find that consistency of winning multiple games in a row. Didn't really win a bunch of games in a row. Didn't really lose a bunch of games in a row that first year. They took a step forward last year, but still, I think finding consistency is what everybody is searching for. And so for me, though, I mean, kind of feels right. I guess, at least at this point, because, I mean, let's be honest, guys, this entire conference, like you've got the couple of teams at the top, then, I know Vandy, it's fun to make fun of them, and they're at the bottom, but, they stepped up and beat a couple teams last year. So, I mean, on paper, it's really hard to sort through that just huge middle group because they can all beat up on each other.
Well, and it is worth noting that despite being number 8, they are 3rd overall as far as the SEC East goes in these power rankings. 5 of the top 7 teams are all from the West, which is not really a surprise there, I guess.
What do y'all think of the preseason conversation of Alabama or LSU in the West? Because rightfully so, Alabama kind of always gets the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
But LSU represented the West last year in the title game.
And LSU has a sure quarterback situation, and Alabama doesn't.
Ding, ding, ding. So it is interesting. I get it. It is earned, but it is interesting how Bama always tends to get the benefit of the doubt in these situations, even though we know the college game is, for the most part, run by QBs. Now, I think Georgia, rightfully so, Georgia's going to be number one in all these lists. They should be number one nationally in all these lists at this point until they're not. And that's because they've just stacked so much talent that even though they're replacing a two-time national title winning quarterback, people sort of gloss over that as well. So I'll be very curious to see, do we have a little bit more parity in college football at the very, very top this year? Or is there kind of last year Georgia just felt like the true number one for the entire season. And that was really, to me, never that much in doubt. And that's how it played out. So it's kind of funny. Both the top two teams on this list are replacing quarterbacks from last year, and incredibly successful quarterbacks at that. Whereas LSU's sitting there saying, hey, we got our guy. We're happy with our guy. And guess what? He led us to Atlanta last year.
After you get past the first, definitely 2 to 3, you could even say 5. I don't know, there's jury's out on A&M, right? They're definitely very talented. But it is tougher. So it's hard to look through this list and say, how could you rank the team that's, 12th? They should be more like 7th. It's hard to do that exercise because they are so close. There are so many games. A lot of these teams from the 6 to 14 spot, the 6 to 12 spot, they're going to play each other. A lot of those games are going to be toss-ups, basically pick-ems.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of hard to do the rankings even at the top. I do agree with you, Wes. I think Bama's getting a little benefit of the doubt. If you made me say I might slide LSU into 2, just until further notice, until proven otherwise. Let me give you a couple takes on some teams so Missouri at 13. I know the point that I just made. I actually might move them up a little bit. But for some reason, I'm a little more bullish on Missouri. Florida at number 10. Now, that's kind of weird to see. A program with all of Florida's history being at number 10. I'm actually pretty down on Florida. And one reason, guys, quarterback. Graham Mertz. We saw that spring game where they had like 12 yards of offense in the spring game. Look at Florida's schedule. It's a typical SEC schedule. They open at Utah. They play Tennessee. They play Kentucky. That's in the first 5 weeks. They go to South Carolina. They play the neutral site game with Georgia. At LSU. At Missouri. They play FSU. This is a difficult schedule, I think, for a team that has a lot of questions. And I think this is a key year for Florida. They're putting together a good recruiting class, but I think this is a really important year for Billy Napier. I honestly could see this year going bad for them. I could see it going sideways.
One team that I'm interested on how Phil Steele ranked them is Auburn at number 12, because I feel like every single preseason ranking I've seen so far has Auburn not like at the top, but a pretty decent team, and that obviously is because Hugh Freeze is now their head coach, but Phil Steele seems to be pretty down on them, at least for this first year.
Down on them and up on A&M.
Yes.
I think comparatively. And, I like we talked about yesterday, Auburn tends to be better than expected when there are low expectations, and they tend to kind of fall apart at times when they are, expected to do really well. So, I think when there's so much turnover, like you have at Auburn, it's difficult to kind of know what to project there. However, I always think you get a boost when you have a new coach. You have you kind of get a locker room boost. You kind of get that new energy, new belief, and then it's up to that coach to kind of build from that and continue from there and keep the momentum going. But I'm with you, man. Auburn is probably the team I would put higher on this list than what they are, because say what you want about Hugh Freeze, the dude can coach offense. And if you're putting up a bunch of points, which I'm sure they'll figure out their quarterback situation, you're going to have a chance in today's college football. So to my point earlier, though, if you just made this list and you put if you just put Georgia, Alabama, LSU 1, 2, 3, and then put Missouri, Vanderbilt 13 and 14, and then took the rest of the teams and just literally threw them in a hat and shook them all up and put them in a random order, would anybody actually know the difference? Like, would there be a huge, maybe if, like Chris said, maybe if Florida were 5 or something in that random order, you might kind of side-eye at it. But you could probably make a case for a lot of these teams for them to be higher. I would certainly say Auburn at least over Mississippi State. The one on this list that I think continuously doesn't get much love, and South Carolina fans obviously dislike them, but Kentucky, every year they tend to just put together a fairly consistent product. We thought they would maybe take a step back going into this year, but they may have even upgraded their quarterback situation, believe it or not. So they're dangerous for South Carolina once again.
And for those wondering, Auburn's potential quarterback is Peyton Thorne, the transfer from Michigan State. We'll see how he fares in the Hugh Freeze offense in 2023. But again, that's Phil Steele's 2023 SEC Power Rankings in the preseason, at least. Coming up next, we'll step outside of football a little bit. Talk a little bit of home run derby last night as Vlad Guerrero Jr. took home the title out in Seattle ahead of tonight's All-Star game. That's coming up next on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
I'm sure Vlad got a beautiful print of one of those home runs from yesterday at the Home Run Derby, and I'm telling you what he needs to do with it. He needs to go over to our friends at Goal Line Framing in West Columbia, and he needs to have a custom frame job there, because they can pretty much anything and everything that you want framed up, they can take care of it for you. That could be diplomas, original artwork, canvases, jerseys, and flags. They've been in business for over 20 years. You can head on over to 511 12th Street, West Columbia, to check out their in-store art gallery, home decor, furniture, gift items, and many, many more things. If you have a question, give them a call, 803-739-1337. You can head on by Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and then Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., or just give them a follow on Instagram at Goldline Framing SC. Again, that's my friend Kendall Walsh and manager Joni James. They'll take care of any and all your custom framing needs at Goldline Framing in West Columbia.
All right, we'll wrap up the day with the Home Run Derby coming up next. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
Popped it up. Gonna have one.
I don't think he did it.
He did not do it.
Oh, my.
Vlad Guerrero Jr. will hang on and win the 2023 T-Mobile Home Run Derby.
And that was the call last night on ESPN as, yes, Vlad Guerrero did defeat Randy Arozarena in the final round of last night's Home Run Derby, 25-23. He hit 72 home runs over the course of the 3 rounds last night, claiming the victory, just like his dad did back in 2007.
Pretty cool moment, man. I think they said he was FaceTiming his dad from over there on the side, and kind of awesome to watch these guys that we watched as a kid now. We watched their fathers as a kid and watch them perform, and Vlad's not a guy I get to watch very often just in day-to-day games because he's in Toronto, but very impressive display from a lot of those guys. And this, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, man, but as much sort of flack as MLB gets from time to time, and, Manfred is playing the role of heel with a lot of people, I actually have thoroughly enjoyed baseball this year from... the pitch clock stuff is annoying when it actually gets called, but as far as its purpose, it sped up the game. The bigger bases has brought speed back into the game. You actually see hits through the right side now.
Yep.
With no shifts. I've enjoyed the game quite a bit this year, and the Home Run Derby, whether you like the sort of skills competition type stuff or not, it was super fun, I thought, and actually, as a baseball fan and a Braves fan, I thought it was a cool opportunity to get a feel for some of the other guys in the game that maybe I wasn't as familiar with. So that was cool. Always enjoy seeing Pete Alonso not do well. But
he didn't hit the kid in the head.
Did he hit the kid in the head?
Apparently so. They were like having to like help a kid.
I thought that was one of Vlad's balls, but I was sort of half watching. But
maybe it was one of Vlad's balls, but I just know they cut away. They were like helping the kid off the field, like they had arms around him, and then they cut to Alonso like dancing. Not a good look.
No, but I mean, I'll at least defend him a little bit. Like, what was he like looking at the kid? Like, did he know kid was?
He's obviously at home plate, so he's 300 some odd feet away from the kid. So he probably wasn't aware of what was happening out there. Just a very unfortunate camera cut at that moment.
Yeah, for sure. But it was cool to see it be in Seattle. Obviously,
it was weird it not being dark though.
Yeah, that's true. I think if we're going to be nitpicky, the thing, like, you get way more home runs now with them timing it.
Yeah.
And so, actually, a lot of it is sort of your approach to it. Like, do you try to go super fast and just go quantity over quality? Do you try to slow it down? But balls aren't even landing yet.
And they're already on.
And they're already hitting the next 2 or 3 sometimes swings. So I think ESPN kind of struggles a little bit with how to actually cover it to where you as a fan, like I remember like watching Ken Griffey, and I think back then it was just you got a certain number of swings.
Yeah.
And so watching Griffey and then just marveling at each swing and just, oh, that's blasted.
Yeah.
With the way it was last night, you're not actually seeing where it's a disconnect.
And I was watching it last night, and I felt like something was off about it, and that's probably what it was. It's like, it's just one after the other, and they do have the split screen, so you can see the balls going out, but there's no focus on it. You just get to the end of the 2 minutes, and you're like, oh, okay, he hit 24. That's cool. But, there's no, like, okay, here comes this pitch, and there it goes. Here comes this pitch, and there it goes. Like, I do miss that element as well.
There was no connection to which swing resulted sometimes in which ball you were seeing in the split screen, too. I did like at times, and I didn't watch, they had a StatCast version on, I think, ESPN2. I didn't watch it, but I enjoyed at times on the regular version, instantly off the bat, they would give you the exit velocity and the launch angle, and you could sort of tell whether it was mashed or not.
Sure.
Just based on those numbers. So that was actually kind of, I thought, an interesting addition to it for me, because seeing guys hit 110 off the bat at 30 launch angle, it's blasted.
And also with it being timed, and again, homer after homer after homer, it didn't bring as much of the crowd into it, because again, they're just watching balls flying all over the place, and you can't really focus on one thing. So, I definitely miss like the one pitch at a time aspect of it that kind of builds up the drama of each pitch.
Yeah, for sure. But still, fun event. I liked watching Julio Rodriguez as the hometown guy. Yep. His first round was incredible. The game of baseball is, I think, in a good place as far as the young stars that are going to carry it into the future. And Julio Rodriguez, honestly, one of my favorite guys to watch when I do get a chance to see him play. So that was cool. But Vlad got some redemption because he hit, 90-plus home runs, 91 homers a couple of years ago and didn't win. So he was bound to get one. Final thought, very mature decision, though. Ronald Acuna, he's going so well right now.
Don't
mess with a thing.
Yeah, well, I was not complaining at all of not seeing him in the home run derby last night. And tonight, coming up, is the All-Star game as All-Star Week continues. And that'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs here on 107.5 The Game. Up next is the Halftime Show with Terry.
So, we've got a number 1 deluxe meal. Is there anything else I can get you?
Yeah, I'd also like a good night's sleep.
Excuse me, sir?
You know, the I didn't struggle all night with my uncomfortable CPAP mask, or something like the my wife didn't kick me out to sleep on the couch because of my constant tossing and turning.
Sir, we don't have anything like that here. I think what you're looking for is Inspire. It's an implant that works inside your body to treat sleep apnea without a CPAP. That way you can breathe normally and rest more soundly.
Come on! Oh, he sounds hangry. Inspire is the only FDA-approved sleep apnea treatment of its kind. It's helping tens of thousands of people finally get restful sleep. To learn more, visit InspireSleep.com. That's InspireSleep.com. Inspire, sleep apnea innovation. Inspire is not for everyone. Talk to your doctor to see if it's right for you and review important safety information at InspireSleep.com.